the Russ Meyer movies. I have to say about Faster Pussycat, which is probably the biggest cult movie that he ever made, when that movie came out, it was a bomb. It did not work at all. He had made Vixen. He had made all these other movies before that were huge hits. He started the Nudie Cutie, and then this one, there wasn't any really nudity in it, and it was about 3 lesbians. So it was not a hit. But when I saw it at the drive-in, I went insane, and we went and watched it every single night. And the fact that In Female Trouble Divine yells every line, that's because of Toro Satana. And then later, I wrote about it in my book Shock Value, and I said, not only is it the best film ever made, it's the best film that will be made in the future. Now that's a good blurb, right? So he used it, and I did help make that one a success, because it was not a hit when it first came out. And today you watch that movie, it is a brilliant, brilliant movie. The dialogue, it's so good. And that opening line where they're watching the Go-Go Girls, and that man's going, go, baby, go, go, go. There's nothing better. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is classic. It is a brilliant parody. I went the first day alone to the first matinee. And even I was shocked at how deadpan it was. And you look back on it, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls ages like a fine wine. It gets better and better and better and better. So Russ Meyer kind of invented what was called the Nudie Cutie movie, really. The real beginning of sexploitation films were because Hollywood movies would not show breasts or asses, basically. They let him make this there was another studio film he did, but this was the first one, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And finally, 20th Century Fox let Russ Meyer make a movie. When audiences saw it that first, they were confused because they didn't know, is this serious? And that's why it's so great, because no matter what the cast says today, I believe many of them did think it was serious. That's what makes it so brilliant, that they never let on. They said every line in it, even the most ludicrous line, as if they believed every word of it. So I'm watching this movie, and it gets more and more insane. And at the end, that endless narration where you too must walk beneath us is so brilliant. It's poetry. The guy throws down his crutches and can walk from being handicapped through love. It turns into an insane Hallmark greeting card at the end. You think, what? As you're watching it, and it goes on and on. There's like 10 endings that get more and more. It's like a deodorant commercial. People running, and I parodied that in Polyester. I had the scene of Divine and Tab Hunter running in slow motion. That was a joke on that, because it just looked like, what is going on here? And the audience I saw it with was bewildered, because I think it was a matinee, so it wasn't that crowded. But it was men that thought, what is this? Because it is like an insane soap opera. A lot of movies that are thought of as campy. Is this campy? I don't know. To me, a campy movie is one that was made to be serious and is so bad it's funny. That it's just so awful. Like Showgirls. No matter what he says today, he was serious when he made that movie. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls was filmed as if they were serious, but they both knew it was funny right from the beginning. It was a satire. And that's what makes it so smart in a way. But Roger had some pretty good rotten lines in it, So, I mean, I love that. Sometimes they're just putting in words that they've read, but nobody knows what they mean. But they all say like they know exactly. It makes no sense. But still, every time I watch it, there's a new thing in it that I just can't believe my eyes, or it's so perfect. The music, I mean, the Carrie Nation, I mean, what a great name. And also, and my favorite is when they're driving across the country, singing with a superimposed over the map. Oh, it's beyond good. They're sort of like the Mamas and the Papas or something. When you hear them now, they're good, kind of. They're great in a way. It's just like they're so ludicrous when you see them. All that stuff kind of happened, but not like that. They took it to L.A. and went beyond the valley. But yet, I play the album all the time, and I love the title song. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls sounds to me like a Douglas Sirk theme, like Imitation of Life, really. That's what it sounds like, that kind of melodramatic music. I love that song. So it is also paying tribute to old Hollywood genres that I don't even know if Russ Meyer knew as much as Roger Ebert did know, certainly. And so today, when you show it to young people, they're confused too. I showed it to somebody recently, and they liked it, but they were like, what? They don't know what it is, because it's parodying many different genres. None of those genres do they have today. So they don't get it. That's why I think it's such a brilliant script. I do believe it is the #1 best thing that Roger Ebert ever did. Roger Ebert gave me some very mean reviews later in my career, so I can criticize. I think he took what Russ was famous for and made it even better than Russ could have ever written. I think it's a better screenplay than any of the other movies. And this movie today, Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, believe me, is from transgendered viewpoint, very politically incorrect. And it is kind of shocking to see it today because it's so politically incorrect. But Beyond the Valley of the Dolls is less about giant breasts than some of the other movies, or it's certainly more of a lurid melodrama. It's a plot. You know, the men were there to look at breasts, but they needed a plot, so there's the middle, beginning, and end real fast with a lot of nasty dialogue. I never heard him complain about anything of it. I mean, do you think maybe he says, oh, if we had had more tits? I don't think so. I think they let him do what he wanted to do because he was on budget. And he came in, he did the script. He didn't do a lot of takes. He came in, there were good performances. They didn't know either. The people that ran the studio, believe me, they didn't get any of those movies. They just saw that it grossed 100 times what it cost. That's what they were interested in. They thought, let him do it as long as, and it got an X rating, which then was just for the beginning to hurt a little bit. You know, it didn't help that it got an X rating. And if you look back on it now, it's amazing that it got an X rating. I mean, for what, really? I think it probably got the X for the violence. Or just, yes, or just because it was Russ Meyer. And they knew who it was, and they were mad that he's coming in. You know, the MPAA is always against sex. They always were, and it makes them nervous. And this movie, believe me, they weren't laughing either. They really didn't get it. They thought, oh, that means you should be erotic to cut somebody's head off. Or they didn't even know what transgender meant, probably. They were confused by that. It was harmless, sort of, but no one could figure out what it was. It confused everybody. So even the studio, I'm sure, I can't even imagine at their first test screening. Did they have test screenings for that? How could it possibly have tested? They must not have. Because I'm trying to imagine them sitting there in the screening room watching it for the first time and say, well, Rush, that's good. We really like it. But they didn't make him do research. They didn't make him, I've never read anything they made him change anything he didn't want or censor it in any way or cut anything or anything. So I think they just never got it in the first place, and it didn't cost that much money, and he came in on budget, so let's release it and see what happens. So Beyond the Valley became, like, for me, a code word. When you say you went beyond the valley of the ultra vixens, or, you know, it just became a code word for knowing excess and Hollywood. I mean, even in Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, I mean, Z-Man, you know, I mean, that is he created a type. Beyond the three girls, I mean, they are a type now that you look at them and say, wow, it's so Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. I mean, it's just become a classic because it was so smart and ahead of its time. They're usually always ahead of its time. And people were confused by it when it first came out, which they always are on films that change everything. They think, what? I don't get this because it's not easy. Is this a comedy? Is this a drama? Is this a sex film? Is it a farce? What is it? The thing was, it was all those things put together and each one of them done perfectly. It always looked good. You know, and I just hope a generation that hasn't seen it, because it does get better and better and better. And each time you watch it, you think, some people say, is that what the 60s were like? Mm-hmm. That's exactly what it was like. Everybody looked like that. They didn't, but some people did. Some people did, especially in LA. Russ was a technician. Most sexploitation films were filmed pretty badly. They were washed out, they were lit badly. Russ's were technically really good. That's what made him such a star, really, because they were industrials about tits. They were shot like tits with a product, and Russ was the best at it. Russ was a good filmmaker. Russ created a signature shot. A Russ Meyer woman. You knew what it was. He was an auteur. He was a director that you could instantly look at the movie and say it was Russ Meyer.